Welcome to Spybrary, by spy fans, for spy fans, with Shane Whaley. Shane dives into the mystery and intrigue of spy books and movies, both fact and fiction, delivering reviews and interviews with authors, historians, intelligence experts, and spy fans. He discusses everything from John le Carré, Len Dayton, Ian Fleming, Tom Clancy, Brad Thor, and many more. If you love spy books and movies, keep listening. This podcast is for you. This is Spybrary.
It's a brush pass, quick and simple.
You are listening to Brush Pass on Spybrary. Quick reviews sent in by spy fans for spy fans. Hi, and welcome to episode 88 of the Spybrary podcast. Delighted to bring you a brush pass. This morning, I finished Firefly, a novel by Henry Porter, which was highly recommended by Spybrarian Jason King on episode 65. If you remember, the end of last year, we had a Best Spy Books of 2018 with Jason, and Porter's Firefly was up there. So I've had this in my collection since Christmas time. It was a Christmas present. I've only just got round to reading it. And let me give you, the brush pass is basically where we give you our opinions right after finishing a book. So Firefly, hardcover, the quote on the front of it worried me slightly in that it says, the quote is fine, but it's who it's by. It says, British espionage fiction is the best in the world, and Porter is a part of the reason why. And naturally, I do agree British espionage fiction is the best in the world, but it's a Lee Child quote. And I'm starting to get a bit tired of Lee Child quotes. I mean, great writer and everything else, but not only that, I mean, you tend to see the Lee Child quotes on a lot of books, and then when you open the book up, it says, Henry Porter, who has been widely hailed as a next-generation John le Carré, is a best-selling author in the UK and has won the CWA Ian Fleming Steel Dagger Award. In Firefly, a 13-year-old Syrian refugee is fleeing ISIS, trying to make his way to Germany and to safety. Codenamed Firefly, he holds vital intelligence about a vicious ISIS terror cell and details of their plans. But the terrorists are hot on his trail, determined the boy won't live to pass on the information. When MI6 becomes aware of Firefly and what he knows, the race is on to find him. Paul Sampson, ex-MI6 agent and now private investigator, finds himself recruited to the cause. Fluent in Arabic thanks to his Lebanese heritage, and himself the product of an earlier era of violent civil war, Sampson's job is to find Firefly, win his trust, and get him to safety. An emotionally powerful thriller following the refugee trail from Syria to Europe. Firefly is a breathtaking page-turner that offers a moving portrait of the plight and desperation of people who have nothing to lose. So intriguing passage. It was just the John le Carré thing. I think we all see it on lots of books, and it's cheapened the currency. So first of all, let me tackle Porter's writing. I found his writing engaging. I enjoyed the book. Up front, I would score it a 4-star out of 5, almost a 5-star. And it's unusual for me because I tend to prefer Cold War spy books. But there was something very engaging, something very compelling with Porter's writing. Very good description. In fact, I was reading on Goodreads that some people felt that he went into too much detail, which doesn't surprise me because there were times when I kind of thought, oh, okay, this is basically a chase scene. So it's a contemporary spy novel. And it's a chase story, but one with lots of twists and turns. And there were moments where I thought, oh, okay, yet another chase on another border. This is wearing, a little thin. But the author, Porter, would pull tight on the rope of suspension, if you will. And suddenly the story would come alive again. You're like, what just happened? And I really liked So regular listeners know I do prefer the more realistic spy thriller, which is why I don't tend to read the Brad Thors of the world or the Mark Rainey's. And those of you who enjoy those books, listen, Vive la Différence and all that, but it's not really what I want to read in my spare times. I much prefer the more realistic, the human factor I hold up as a book that, or pick most of Le Carré's early work, and that's my favorite. So I think Porter does a really good job of making this realistic. You know, Paul Sampson is not a James Bond character. He has this background and you read a little bit about it, but he's not someone who's going to come flying into a bar and wipe out 8 ISIS terrorists. It's very realistic. Reminds me a little bit actually of some of Len Dayton's writing, and it won't have escaped your notice that the name Sampson, I did wonder if that was a bit of a nod to Bernie, although they're very different characters, in fairness. I like the fact that there is a female. I think Porter does females very well. I think all the females in the book are strong. They're on their own right. They're not the weak damsel in distress. They're very intelligent. That's both the female spy who's in this and also the psychologist, the counselor from the camps who plays a large part of the story. I think they're strong. It's good writing by Porter in that regard. So yes, while he does go into detail, and I understand what the Goodreads contributor is saying there, I felt for me the detail really added to the story. I felt like I was in Skopje. I felt like I was in Macedonia. I felt like I was at the border. It was not a travel log as such, but I think he really kind of described those areas. I wonder if Porter has been to some of those border spots, because I felt it was authentic, as well as the subculture that goes on. I confess, I don't know a huge amount about the life of an immigrant crossing Europe from the Middle East, but it felt realistic. The bit about the dolphin at the start, I did kind of roll my eyes a bit, but then later on in the story, there's a really nice twist around that passage in the book. So, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. So what I'm getting at is it is detailed, but I think it helps the authenticity of this book. Characters were superb. And I'm starting to ask myself, because I just enjoy reading, right? I rarely kind of sit down and go, why did I like that book? It's just, oh yeah, you have to read Tinker Tailor or whatever. I enjoyed the story. But I'm starting to ask myself a little bit more, like, why do I enjoy a book? And maybe I need to call Professor Fielding and get some advice on this, or go to one of her classes, or go to classes on writing here in Vermont, because I'm starting to ask myself, why did I like that book? Why didn't I like that book? And I think with this one, the characters were really, first of all, really believable, authentic, genuine. There were good backstories. I liked Samson's backstory. You know, early doors, you get Samson and his soon-to-be boss at MI6 having this discussion, and it's made very clear that Samson's been kicked out for gambling. He's been kicked out of the Secret Service for gambling. There's more on that later in the book. And you immediately feel something for this guy. You know he's a bit of an outlier. And again, it plays a little bit on that, what you see in Le Carré and Dayton books, the class system at work and the differences between the boss and the employee, as it were. And I think that came across early, but it's not a caricature of that. Certain elements come into play, but this isn't a Dickie Cryer kind of situation. But early doors, you get a feel for Samson. I think he has the sympathy. And then as he goes on his journey, and I was really surprised by some of the twists and turns. And I really got the feel that this author, Porter, he wasn't manipulating the characters to make a story. It was definitely jarring in some points about where the story would go, what would happen. One big kind of twist at the end really kind of surprised me. But the way the characters are built up, so Samson, Naji, the refugee boy, his friend, even the dog. Yep, there's a dog that tags along with him. The dog has a backstory. That this isn't some kind of Disney movie, right? This is very real. So overall, I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. I highly recommend it. Now, I've got another Porter book here, Brandenburg, I think it's called. I'll have to dig that one out. I'm not sure, though, when I'll get to it, because Le Carré's book is out this week. I've got a couple of Berlin books I've got to read, Cold Warriors on my list. So it's getting busy in terms of reading. And I don't travel as much as I used to in my old job. So I don't get as much reading time as I used to, because I have to say, as much as airports and fly-ins are pain in the backside, it's a great place to get lots of reading done. So anyway, that's my brush pass. I've waffled on, but you know what? You've listened to enough brush passes now. Oh, I meant to say, sorry, before I finish, there's 3 quotes on the back, actually, from 3 authors that I really respect. Joseph Cannon says, this is a classic chase thriller with an on-the-scenes look at the Syrian refugee crisis. It doesn't get more contemporary than this, and that's Joseph Cannon. Our friend Mick Heron says, a welcome return. Firefly seems ripped from the headlines and is both timely and terrific. And Charles Cumming, another friend of Spybrary, the eagerly awaited return of an espionage master. So with those 3 authors back in this book, you know you're in for a good ride. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I recommend it. If you want to send in a brush pass, just pick up your phone, get your voice memo, record into it. 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes. It's up to you. And again, as you just heard me waffle on, this isn't literary criticism. This is just literally what I thought on putting this book down. Would I recommend it to a friend? Yes. I score it a 4 out of 5. And what I really liked, just before I go, is I was worried that it might be carrying too many political messages, but it really didn't. There was a few in there, but this isn't a preachy book at all. I think it just paints a realistic picture of the immigrant's journey, and it is an eye-opener as to what they're going through on their journey. So, yeah, good book. Anyway, thanks for listening to Spybrary. You can find the show notes at spybrary.com. And do think about sending us in a brush pass. I know our listeners, I can tell you that downloads for the brush passes are always really high. I know you guys are loving them. So please do send yours in. And don't worry about how your voice sounds, right? Don't worry about the recording. I'll do some work on that. And we're all forgiving. We know we're recording this at home. So don't worry. Just, I'd love to hear your views. Cheers. Can you pull off a brush pass? Send in your review to shane@spybrary.com.
Thanks for listening to the Spybrary podcast. You don't have to wait for the next episode. Join the conversation happening now at facebook.com/Spybrary and on Twitter @Spybrary.